night, Warriors. Welcome back to tonight's mentorship call. Tonight, we have a special guest. Payton Gottshall is a pitcher. She's a professional player, and I'm so excited to introduce her to you guys tonight because she plays professional softball year round, which for our sport is pretty phenomenal and really quite rare. And I hope that by the time you guys are old enough to play in the pros, this is just an everyday thing. So she's an All American. She played at Tennessee. She got drafted to the Volts, which you might recognize. And then as the AUSL expanded, she has now been drafted to the Cascade. So, Payton, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. Excited to be here, talk to you guys.
Well, we got lots of Warriors on tonight. Let's just kick things off. Who are you? Where are you? I know before we hit record, we were talking about, what's a day in the life? Give us a peek behind the scenes.
So for me, I'm from Ohio, so that's where I'm at right now. I'm in my off season currently, which isn't very long. But right now I've just been working out. I do that in the morning. And then I get a little bit of time to kind of chill out and recover. And then I go into lessons starting like 4 or 5, depending on the day. Usually go like 8 or 9 and then go home, eat, sleep, then do it all the next day.
I love it. So, when does season start for you? When do you have to report? And I guess if that's kind of a secret, I don't want to unveil the secret, but you're headed
Um,
to a city, right?
yeah, so we find out the 13th, where we'll be playing for the AUSL, but I actually play in Mexico too, so I'm leaving this Saturday. Early in the morning, I get to fly out at 6:30 a.m., um, head to Mexico, and then I'll be there all up until like the end of March, depending how well we do. So if we do really well and win and make to the finals and everything, I should be like end of March.
And this is Team Mexico.
It's the Sultanes. So it's their it's called the Liga Mexicana de Softball. Um,
Awesome.
but that's their professional league in Mexico. So they just started up. This is their third season. So I'm on the Sultanes, and then there's 7 other teams. So we get to play there during the winter, and then I get to play here in the summer.
That is so cool. I didn't even know that. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, so I get to ask the first question as a mental performance coach. I love asking this because it gives the girls an idea of just because you've made it, you're a professional softball player,
Mhm.
doesn't mean you stop with your mental game. What are
Yeah.
some of the things that give you the competitive advantage, mental skills, journaling? What are you doing to kind of make sure that you're as sharp as you can be mentally?
A lot of times I'll journal. Depends on the day for me, honestly. I don't want to lie. But there's days where I don't want to write stuff down because I didn't like exactly what I put out. But I will go in usually the next day and then write, okay, this is what wasn't working for me. This is what I want to focus on today, how I'm going to come after that, and what I'm going to do to try and fix it. I don't like to sit and dwell on everything that night. I'll give myself until like midnight and then kind of get over it, move on, and then go about my stuff the next day. Um, but that's something that's really helped me is not paying attention to stuff for too long. I give myself till the end of the night or whenever I go to bed. And then when I wake up, fresh start the next day. um, in a game, I like to talk to people a lot. I'm very loud, very emotional with how I play and how I pitch. So for me, I'm very talkative on the field. And if I feel myself getting in my head, I will talk to a lot of my teammates. My mom has told me that I look crazy for doing it sometimes because not only will I talk to my teammates, but I'll talk to myself during the games. And a lot of that is just if it's like a high pressure moment and I feel myself kind of slip into like, what if she gets a hit or what if I'm not going to come out on the other side? I just completely get rid of that. And I'm like, no, like, I'm going to win this pitch. And like for a specific game, it was Florida, that series against them in 2023. And it was the last batter of the game. And I think we had just come back from like a 7 run deficit. And so, top of the seventh inning, and I had 3-2 count on the batter, and she kept fouling everything off. And I keep telling myself, this pitch, I'm going to win it. I'm going to beat her. She's not winning. And ended up getting a nice little pop up, or I don't even remember what exactly it was, but ended up getting that out. But I'm very vocal, especially during games with what I want, or if I'm in my head, I'm gonna look at my first baseman, hey, like you got me on this play, or just talking that way I'm not in my own head and I have to project onto somebody else. Sorry, I did not hear you. Oh no. I cannot hear you.
How about now?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's the speaker. Some Peyton say something. I think the
Are we good?
okay, we're gonna have to quit this podcast mic because that's driving me nuts. Speaker, microphone.
I can't hear you now.
It, I jinxed it. I got a new podcast mic and it's not playing nicely. Okay, so you knew that you needed to be about yourself. At what point did you kind of discover that and then really start to key into this works on it?
Like you repeat it, it was cutting out.
Nice to have good sound quality. All right, how about now?
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good. That works for you to be vocal. When did you discover and kind of realize, I don't care if this makes me look crazy. I don't care if this makes me different. This is what gives me success. When did you start to kind of really double down on it?
I think it was in 2023. But I was already a very vocal person, but I at the beginning of that year, I was very in my head, especially going into SEC play because that was my first time actually playing in the SEC. And so I was very doubtful of myself as a player and a pitcher. And so I sat down with Karen and we kind of talked about it. And she's like, you wouldn't be here if you couldn't play at this level. And so then I started thinking about how I was as a player before I had gotten there and before all that kind of started. And then I'm like, okay, why am I holding myself back? Because up until I got there, I was already a little bit vocal and I kind of knew that's how I played with a lot of emotion. And then when she had kind of brought that up, she was like, I'm used to you like talking a lot. And so I'm like, yeah, I was like, where did that go? And so then I was like, I don't care because I just want to win. So I'm like, if that's going to help me be a better player for my teammates, then I'm going to do it and I'm not going to hold back and I'm not going to be afraid of what people think or anything that is going to happen with that. I'm just going to do it because I don't want to regret not and holding myself back. So I just kind of let myself be free and play free and it worked.
Yeah, and why go back? After you
Mhm.
realize that, why go back? Talk about the fears leading up to that, where you're experiencing the SEC, it's super competitive. Talk us through those kind of negative thoughts or those fears, like what was going through your head, before that moment.
Oh my gosh, there was so much. I it was a lot of like, should I really be here? And so like I love and hate social media because a lot of people would post stuff of like, oh, like she's got a lot of shoes to fill, or like there's all these players that came before her. Is she really going to be ready to come into the SEC? And I kind of let that creep into my head, and I'm like, wait, like, are they right? Am I ready to be here? should I even be here? Like, yeah, I dominated at the level I was, but now this is a whole nother level. And so I kind of let that creep in, and I talked to my parents about it, and then they were kind of like reassuring me. They're like, no, like, you're supposed to be there. Like, you should have been there all along. And I got to the point where I was crying on the phone to them. And I was just like pretty much at my lowest that I've been in my career. And that's when I was like, okay, I've hit rock bottom. Now is when I start the comeback. And I was like, how am I going to do this? Who was I before this? How did I go about all my workouts, all my bullpens, every single practice? What was my mental game like before this? And why am I letting myself get into this space? And so just working out of that, I'm like, okay, I used to watch more film, do this with my coach, and why am I going to change just because I'm at a different place? And if anything, I have so many more resources going to Tennessee. So I'm like, I need to use them because they're not just there for nothing. And so I really let myself take those on full time, where I was doing more in the weight room with our strength coach. I was doing a little bit more with my vitamins and everything with our nutritionist, and just using every possible resource that they had for us.
Do you feel like there's a fear of if I use these resources, then I'm considered weak? Or, well, I guess talk me through some of those fears. Because again, we're pulling back the curtain because nobody goes on social media and says, hey, we're not going to broadcast those fears. But here on this call, pull
Mhm.
back that, like, what
Yeah.
were some of those thoughts?
For me, it was always like, I shouldn't have to have this, or like that's kind of what you think is I shouldn't need this stuff. I should just be able to go play and go do this stuff and be fine. But it's not there because it's something that shows you're weak. It's there to help make you stronger. And I think once I finally flipped that in my head, because I talked to our strength coach about it and I talked to our nutritionist, I'm like, exactly is this going to do? And they sat and they talked me through. They're like, okay, if you take this, then this is what it's going to do. And it's going to help you get a better recovery and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, so now I actually understand it and now I can use it to my benefit. But I think it was just having that conversation instead of like just thinking I know everything because I don't, and letting myself be open to any possibility with it.
I love that. And to segue on that, talk about the mental side. What resources did you lean on? And I guess I should also ask, let the girls know, where were you before Tennessee?
So I was at Bowling Green State University. It's a smaller D1 in the MAC, but it was still a really good school. But we didn't have that many resources there. It was basically like our staff, our strength coach, and our trainer. But
And
definitely
now you're at
nothing like,
Tennessee,
yeah.
and talk about you've talked a little bit about the physical side. Talk about the mental side. What are some of the things that you've learned, you know, even outside of your, 5 years that you played college ball? Talk about the evolution of, your mental skills. And before we hopped on, you were talking about the program.
Hmm. Oh yeah. So just like different resources we had there is I can't remember the exact title, but it was like a sports psychologist, I think. And he had worked with Monica Abbott, who one of the best pitchers ever. Um, but she worked with him a lot. I think he said almost like every week or sometimes more than once a week. But kind of talked to him a little bit. He would come in and have sessions with us sometimes here and there, but talk to our trainer a little bit. I was more of like my teammates a little bit because you don't ever really think to go to them as much. But we just had like a really good group, and it kind of stemmed from us doing the program because it's like a military style camp for 2 days where we're put through the ringer, having to do all these physical tests and everything, swimming, literally everything possible, and you feel like you can't do it. And your teammates are there, and then you're cheering each other on, showing that you're being competitive, but also that you're there for one another. So I think just having that, it's like, okay, so you're not in this alone because everybody else is struggling and everybody else is feeling the same thing. And it's not just you, but it's all of the 20 other girls right beside you. And I think the biggest thing with that was we always talked about you're doing this for the person to your left and your right. And so that was a big thing that we kind of took in and day out is we're not just here for ourselves and we're not here to just be in it selfishly, but we're here for everybody. And it's a team thing. It's not just me.
So good. And for context, it was swimming, running, exercise. I mean,
Oh yeah. Um, we had sandbags that we had to run with, and then you had to transfer it to your partner. We had to carry each other 50 yards and back. You had to swim with one another, take a hoodie off underwater, and then try to put it back on. Um, it was something else.
and talk about the comparison of, the level of toughness that this required versus did it make practice look insanely easy the week after?
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, but it wasn't like physically, it was very hard, but mentally, I think it was just so much harder because you're sitting there, like physically, you think you can do it. And yes, like you're going to get through it, but mentally, how far can you go? So, like, when you're ready to give out body wise, it's all got to be up here and how far you think you can push yourself. And if you feel like you're at your limit, then your teammate's going to be right there for you. So, just having that where you know, like, okay, maybe I can't do this, or physically I'm not going to be able to, somebody's going to be right there to pick me up.
That's awesome. Very cool. All right, I'm gonna open it up to you guys. What questions do you guys have for Payton?
I am number 33.
I love it. Katie in the chat.
What is like your best piece of recruiting advice?
Ooh, okay. For me, I think just making sure that it's personal. Um, you get a lot of people who will send like the same email to a lot of the same coaches, and it's like, hey, this is me. I'm going to be at these tournaments this day, this day. I want to come to your camp, do this, blah blah blah. But they really notice when you're detailed about their school and maybe even their lives. So for me, I would look at who my coaches were, try to see if I could find anything like if they had family or kids or whatever, try to connect with them on a deeper level than rather just their school because they could just go to another school and then they're not going to really remember you, but they're going to remember if you asked how their family was doing or if they're public on like social media, then you're like, oh, I saw like your daughter just had a birthday or something. But trying to connect on a deeper level rather than just all about recruiting.
That's a great point. And follow if, not just the coach, but the team. Hey,
Yeah.
congrats on your, you know, conference championship or whatever is going on. That's great. Great question, Caitlin. Sophia, do you want to unmute?
What's your favorite pregame, midgame, and postgame routine?
Okay, pregame, I'm a big music person. So for me, I have to listen like my walk-up song is heavy metal. So I kind of have it where I'll time it where that's the last song I listen to before I get to the field or the stadium wherever I'm playing. And then as I'm going through like whatever we're doing for our warm up that day, um just make sure that I get to hear that again before I go out and then again once I'm out on the mound. Um During the game, like I'm very in a routine when I pitch. So I'll get the ball back. I'll take a couple steps outside of the circle, take a deep breath at the edge of the circle, step in, make sure my head's clear, get on the mound, get the sign, pitch. And it's the same thing every single time. And one of my teammates would make fun of me because I only take like so many steps. and it's the same amount of steps every time. Um, but then after the game, I make sure I get stretching in, um, recovery. So sometimes I'll drink like cherry juice or electrolytes, something like that, make sure I'm hydrated, and then shower, whatever, go to bed. But I would try to get in bed before like 10 or 11, just depending what time the game was.
All right, Kylie.
What advice do you have for the mental side of pitching?
She might be frozen. Does she look frozen to you, Kylie?
Yeah.
That's okay. We can wait. You guys are asking really awesome questions too, by the way. Are you back, Payton?
I'm so sorry. My computer just gave out on me.
This must be a really important call because, girl, we're getting attacked from all tech levels. It just means that call is this much more important. Okay, Kylie, re-ask. No, you're good. Kylie, re-ask your question. That was a great question.
What's your advice for the mental side of pitching?
Oh, okay. Okay. So for the mental side of pitching, it's not to be too hard on yourself. So I'm a very nitpicky person. So especially with how I pitch and how I go about everything on that side. So there's times where I have to kind of like rein myself back in. I'm like, okay, now I'm doing it too much and I'm focused on all this stuff rather than just pitching. And I think it's very important to like remember why you play because there's times where it will get hard. I kind of went through that this summer where I was like, okay, like my team didn't do that well. Um, and I'm like, so now that I'm not winning, I'm like, what really is the point of it? But then I'm like, okay, I fell in love with it at 4 years old. And it's not just because I got to win, but it's because I get to play and do all this stuff and go and do all these things and be around like-minded people who just love to play and they love the game. So I think it's just not getting too wrapped up in your performance and stuff like that, but rather why you started playing and why you continue to play.
There you go. Mental skill, y'all. Know your why. I'm actually going to go back up to the chat. We had some great questions in the chat. How many pitches do you have and what are they?
So I throw a fastball. I don't really throw in games, but I still have a fastball, a changeup. I have an off-speed curve that I throw to both sides of the plate. So as a regular curve and then a backdoor curve. And then I also throw regular curve both sides as well. So curve and backdoor. Screwball and a rise ball. I used to have a drop and drop curve, but then once I got to college, they kind of made me pick either up or down. So I went with my rise ball, but I could still probably throw it, but I just like my rise ball more.
And this past summer, what do you feel like you relied on the most?
So this summer, it was more, which for me, I have never really thrown off speed that much or like just changeups in general. But this summer is a lot more of my off speed curve. It tunnels really well with my curveball, so they look almost identical. So I was able to fool a lot of hitters with it.
Which is so awesome because watching for you guys, if you had a chance, they came to Omaha. We didn't get to watch the Bolts play, but just watching all of you guys in the pros, you're going from the best of the best in college to now the cream of the crop. I mean, there's how many of you total? Less than 100?
Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. And so now you're facing some of the best hitters in the country and you're having to tunnel pitches and rely on just a really juicy off-speed pitch, which is so
Oh, yeah.
cool. I could nerd out about this. Raise your hand if you're a pitcher. Where are my pitchers at? See, told you, Peyton.
There we go.
We got a lot of pitchers. Okay, this is a really great question from Katie. Katie, do you want to unmute?
Yeah.
What is your favorite hobby?
Okay. I really like to bake and to cook. Especially like for my family. Whenever I'm home, I like to try new recipes and stuff and just kind of like broaden my horizons. I'm very fortunate because playing professionally, I do get to travel a lot. So I've been to Italy, Germany, um, Switzerland, Canada, Mexico. I was in Taiwan and the Netherlands this fall. So I like to explore a lot of like their culture while I'm there. And then some of the stuff that I try to make it at home. Um, Not as good, but I try to recreate that and kind of bring that home with me.
I'm gonna piggyback because Katie, I love that question. Think about when you're traveling for the AUSL, when you guys are in different cities and this is now your job. You're literally getting paid to play softball. And so sometimes it can feel like a job. How do you
Yeah.
pour into those hobbies or find things to do, especially when you're on the road and you're in a hotel or you're in a dorm? How do you kind of unplug from the pressures?
I think it's about kind of knowing yourself. So for me, I don't have the biggest social battery. So there's some days where I'm like, I just need to sit in bed and bed rot and not do anything. But it's also find your people. I made a lot of great friends like the last couple summers just playing, especially this year being on the Volts, because we were with that team the whole summer pretty much. We got really close, so I was able to get some really good friends, and a lot of us loved like country music and stuff like that. So we would go line dancing and things like that, and just find other things like in each city that we were at that we would enjoy. Sometimes we'll just go and see a movie that just came out, but just being with each other and kind of taking softball out of the picture. And so like a lot of us will go get our nails done, stuff like that. And it's just little simple things that seem small, but for us, they're big and they're kind of how we get away from that and kind of like stay true to ourselves during that season.
Yeah, because it's tempting, from an outsider perspective, is what's the point of getting your nails done? What's the point of bed rot? Like you're literally filling your bucket, and this is not just something that you're doing, it's with intention. So
Yeah.
I love it. Sophia, this is a question. Do you want to unmute and ask your what time did you go to bed question?
When you said that you would either go to bed at like 10 or 11, depending on what times your game ended, like what time depended on what time like you would go to bed.
So, in Mexico, our games are pretty late. So sometimes our games will start at 8 o'clock. So we'll usually get done um at the field around like 11 or 11:30. And as soon as I get home, I will shower and then go right to bed. If it's an earlier game, like because sometimes we'll play at 5, I'll get home and I try to be in bed by 10 because I know we're gonna have like either an early game or another late game where I'm not gonna get as much sleep then. So I try to plan around what my weekend looks like and what my game schedule looks like. So I prioritize my sleep because that's a huge thing for recovery. Um, so I try to look at what my weekend looks like and then get as much sleep as I can, knowing that I might not be able to another day. Because when we play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so we'll play Thursday, Friday at one stadium, and then we'll have to leave and travel either Friday night or Saturday morning and then play Saturday, Sunday. So I try to look at what my schedule is and fit that in and get as much as I can before the weekend hits because I know that I'm not going to be able to.
Love it. I'm just gonna keep reading in the chat. I know you guys have great questions, so I'm just gonna keep reading them. Or if you guys want to unmute, Katie, do you want to unmute?
Why did you want to start playing softball?
I love this question. So mine, it's a funny reason. So my brother played baseball, and my family's super competitive. So he was a pitcher, and I always told him that I was going to be better than him. So he's kind of why I wanted to play softball, which I can officially say that I am better than him. But that was kind of the main reason. But we love playing catch and stuff in the backyard, so I would always do that with him, and that was kind of our thing.
Love it. And Sophia, you got to go to one of her games. Where did you get to watch her play?
We went to the weekend games in Rosemont.
Okay, very nice.
Cool. Paisley, you got a question?
Yeah. How was it like balancing your school and your softball when it came to like being in season or even off season?
It can be very hard. I feel like I was very organized, going into college, but you kind of have to be when you get to that level. But you have to be super smart. I had a whiteboard that I would keep up in my room, and I would check off everything at the end of the day. So I would have written out what was due on certain days, and I would have, okay, I've practiced at this time, lift at this time, class at this time, and try to work in my homework and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, I don't have this much time this day, so I'm going to do it here. And I would kind of lay everything out for myself. That way it was kind of set there, and I didn't have an excuse not to do it because it was all there, and I knew that I needed to get it done. So I just put it right in front of my face and then had it there. But yeah, it's kind of hard. I was a special ed major, so I was student teaching a lot of the days too. So I would go right from that to practice or to lift or something. But you just really have to be on top of your stuff.
Great question. Caitlin, what you got?
I was wondering like what were the main reasons that you transferred from Bowling Green State to like Tennessee? Like what made Tennessee special?
So when I wasn't going to transfer originally. I loved where I was, and I loved my coach and everything, but she ended up taking another job at a different school, and she wanted me to go with her, but I was like, okay, I've done all these things, set records, was pitcher of the year there. I'm like, okay, I've accomplished all of these things that I wanted for myself, but the only thing I haven't done is win a championship with a team. And that was huge for me because I'm like, I want to get a ring in college because, like, who doesn't? Um, so when she had left, I'm like, okay, now's my opportunity to kind of see what else is out there, and how far I can go with this. And so Tennessee was one of the first schools that had called me, and I didn't answer when they called because I was so scared. But I ended up like calling her back, and they had me come out the first day that I could because of the recruiting deadlines and everything. And so I was out there like the very next week, and it felt like home. I know a lot of people say that, and it's kind of cliche, but you kind of get that feeling, and you know when you know. And for me, growing up, I was very big on my family, and we would go down to a campground um, throughout the summer and have cookouts and stuff, and just sit out on the lake. And when I went to Tennessee, Karen had me come over to her house for dinner with all the staff and their kids and everything, and it was literally like my childhood, and it just felt like home, and it just felt right. And I was like, there's no way that this is happening because this is exactly what my family and I did growing up. And so I just kind of knew that I had to go there, and I had to finish my career there.
I think it goes full circle in recruiting. If you want to have a relationship with your coach and make it personal, so it goes both ways.
Yeah.
So good. We want to be mindful of your time. And so just truly thank you for sharing behind the scenes some things that maybe we don't necessarily share publicly, but I think the girls realize that, you know, even at this level, you're still going to experience, you know, frustrations and hardships and negative thoughts and all the things. So
yeah.
thank you so much for your time. A question for you is, if you could leave a final thought or a piece of advice, knowing where these girls are, you know, all the way down to 10U, all the way up to 18U, trying to get recruited, what's your best piece of advice for them?
I guess my best piece would be, because it's very true to like my story. It doesn't really matter where you start or where you kind of land when you first get to college. But it's about how you go about your day to day. So if you want to get somewhere bigger, or if you think you want to transfer in, or whatever you want to do, then you always work day in, day out, and you will end up where you want to finish. For me, I wanted to go big, but that wasn't really the case recruiting wise for me, because it just didn't work out the way I wanted. But I worked my butt off every single day, making sure that I was doing the right thing. And then when that opportunity came up, I took it. I was scared, but I didn't want to regret not doing it. And then thankfully I did. And then I worked even harder, and now I am where I am.
And now you're a professional softball player in multiple countries.
Mhm.
That is awesome. Payton, again, thank you so much for your time. I hope that the girls get a chance to come watch you this summer. Whenever the cities are announced, if we air this on the podcast, by then we will know where the Cascade will call home. So best of luck. You know, safe travels to Mexico, and we'll follow your journey.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for
Thank
coming
you.
to tonight's call. This was awesome.
Thank you.